guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Today, we're going to talk about a tricky topic, and that is the most deceptive replicas out there in the watch world. Fake watches, fakes have gotten really, really good, and today I want to talk about the 5 models that have gotten so good it's kind of scary, and that you should probably be careful about. Of course, before we get started, wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing the Seiko SKX, just beating around. Love this watch. And also a quick little shout out to delraywatch.com. Just got in a ton of new watches. Vintage Longines, Vintage Submariner, Breguet Tradition. A whole bunch of new pieces for Christmas. So go check it out, delraywatch.com, and check out the hot deal section. We just discounted a whole bunch of watches. So yeah, fake watches. Unfortunately in my line of work, I see quite a bit of them. People try and sell them to me either deceptively or they just don't know. People send watches in for service that they bought online. And unfortunately, it is quite common to get replica watches. But some of them have gotten so good, it's kind of scary. So today I want to talk about 5 models that you should watch out for and a few tells to look out for. However, guys, remember, you should always buy the seller. That's the key thing. It doesn't matter if you're buying, a vintage Tissot for $200 or a $200,000 Breguet Tourbillon. Always buy the seller, because replica watches, they've gotten scary good. They really have. And even if a seller unknowingly sells you one, they should stand behind their claim. So it is very important to pick the right seller when you're trying to buy a watch. But anyway, let's get right into it. The first one is, of course, the Rolex Submariner. It's the most faked watch in the world, and there's really shitty $20 fakes, and there's really good $600-$700 fakes. And the truth is, these have gotten scary good. Now, in the long run, just with any replica, they kind of fall apart, they don't perform. But a new replica right in front of your face, if you don't know what you're doing, could definitely fool you. So the 3 things to look out on the Submariner. First is the general finishing. Remember, the watch has to be perfect. If anything is a little bit too sharp or a little bit misaligned, that's a great telltale sign. The second thing is you're going to want to look at the rehot if it's an engraved Submariner, one of the newer ones. The R's should line up with the lume pips, and on the other side of the dial, the X's should line up. A lot of the replicas, they don't line up correctly. But the third way is the movement. Now, guys, the Chinese have also just come out with Rolex clone movements, and they are scary close. However, the one thing they haven't managed to fake, to the best of my knowledge, is the regulation screws on the balance wheel, the micro Stella screws. If you look at the balance wheel and it doesn't have any screws protruding, chances are it's a replica. And if the screws are there, chances are it's real, but that is the best way to know. However, be careful when buying Rolex subs. If the deal is too good to be true, it usually is. Subs sell for a premium, and no one's going to sell you one cheap. So, just buy it from a reputable seller. The second one, and these have been going around for a while, are Panerai. Particularly any manual wind Panerai with the 6497 at a movement. These were fairly simple watches, so to get the look right was not too hard. I mean, the 2 things to look out on Panerai, one is dirty lume. Panerai is famous for their lume. They've got a lot of lume exposed on the dial, and it's very, very high quality. So if you see a little, like the color's a little bit off, or there's some dirty spots into it due to lazy Chinese manufacturing, chances are it's a replica. But the second way to tell is if you look at the movement. Once again, the bridges on the 6497 Panerais are rhodium finished, very, very high polished. The decoration is very defined. So once again, if you see sloppy decoration and finishing and maybe dirty oils on the movement, that's a good look as well. You also want to look at the shock absorbing ink block. The Chinese ones tend to be a different look, but I want to specify these can be really good fakes. To the point is, if I buy a Panerai from a client, without box and papers, I will not authenticate it myself. I will give it to Hans. He will use a loop. He will tell me if the finishing is up to snuff. For that reason, a lot of guys tend to not want to buy Panerai without papers, and I don't blame you. However, it is very safe if you buy it from a reputable dealer. Now, the third one, and probably the scariest on the list, the one that I cannot even tell 90% of the time, is the Hublot Big Bang. Obviously, the steel ones, because, gold plating, I can tell in a second. But the Hublot Big Bang with the 7750 movement. Once again, you want to look at general finishing. That's the first thing I always look at. Is anything misaligned? Would Hublot really let a $15,000 watch out of the factory with that defect? No. The second thing is the movement. Now, the Asians, they make clone movements, and they've been making clone 7750s for more than a decade, I think. And to be honest with you, Hublot doesn't really decorate their movements very well anyway. So this one is particularly hard. The cheaper Big Bang clones, they don't have the regulating mechanism, but the really high-end replicas do. So unfortunately, with this one, I don't really have any tips apart from discerning the cheaper replicas from a real one. This one, I always take to a watchmaker. No, even with papers, I don't trust my level of knowledge. It's just too close to genuine. I'm sure, if you have one for a few months, the damn thing will fall apart because it's put together like crap. However, to the naked eye, a brand new one, it's very hard to tell. So Hublot, I always bring to a watchmaker. The next ones I've noticed are Breitling Super Oceans, particularly the ones with the ETA 2824 movement. Why is that? Because the 2824 has an expired patent, so the Chinese can make it. They're very undecorated movements apart from the rotors. Breitling, not a particularly intricate watch. So on the Super Ocean, apart from the fit and finish, what I always do is I take a look under the flywheel to see if the ETA stamp is there. Most replica houses, they're allowed to buy Asian 2824s. As I said, the patent is expired, so they're legally made in China. However, these companies that legally make the clones do not stamp ETA because they're not ETA, and that's just illegal. And usually the counterfeiters don't go that far anyway, especially when it's a replica of a $3,000-$4,000 watch. So I always say take a look for the ETA stamp. That's a good way to tell. However, with the 2824, it's also not a very well decorated movement. A watchmaker is probably the best way to go. And then the last one, which is also kind of nuts because it's a very popular watch, is the Tudor Black Bay. Once again, not the in-house movement, the ETA movement. For this, you want to make sure that the bezel aligns perfectly. For some reason, Asians tend to not get bezels very accurate, including Seiko, which is a real watch. So make sure the bezel aligns, open up the case back, 2824, you want to look for that stamp again. Now guys, these are the most prevalent replicas I've come across. I mean, replica Submariners and Hublots happen on a multi-time a month scale. Panerais have been happening for years. And the thing is, even though ultimately these watches don't last because they're made poorly, they can fool someone who's not inspecting them properly. So once again, I would look for a dealer that you trust, because not only will they take the time to inspect it, but God forbid one should slip through the cracks. If something would happen, then he would stand behind his product. But if you guys are some forum guys, these are some things to take a look at on the sub, the Hublot, the Panerai, the Super Ocean, and the Tudor. Things to keep in mind. Now, this is a very, very rough guide. It's more an educational video on watches you should be careful buying if you don't know the source 100% or if it isn't 100% trustworthy, because these can really fool you. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. I hope you found it useful. Please leave your comments in the comment section below, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really does help. And actually, next week, me and John are making a Christmas special episode. which I'm sure you guys will enjoy. I don't want to ruin the surprise, so tune in for that one. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.